Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Hey sports fans, are you ready for an exhilarating gaming experience? Introducing VIPclub.lv, your ultimate online sportsbook and casino. VIPclub.lv offers a vast selection of sports, from football and basketball to tennis and baseball. Bet on your favorite teams and enjoy the thrill of the game. But that's not all. Our state-of-the-art online casino offers a dazzling array of games, including slots, blackjack, roulette, and live dealer tables. Win big with their fantastic promotions, rewards, and exclusive offers. Join VIPclub.lv today and get a generous 200% match welcome bonus to start your winning streak. And make sure to use code ECSI at sign-up. Bet it, win it, and cash it at VIPclub.lv. Visit VIPclub.lv now and play responsibly. VIPclub.lv, your sportsbook and casino extravaganza. Must be 21 or older to play. Please gamble responsibly. Visit gambleware.org for help.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors. And yes, we are back for the Midday Market Report, Tuesday, July 18, 2022. Took a few days off, all-star break, gave our three stud interns, Mr. Ben Cohen behind the glass, Cade Horton, and Joseph Shea, a few days to reminisce and enjoy themselves in the summer of 2023. Shout out to our new sponsor, VIPclub.lv. Please, please, please click the link. Use the ECSI checkout to get yourself some good discounts, some good potential rollovers, and the best customer service in the land. Today, myself and Andrew thought it'd be nice to come on early this week to discuss some opening lines of the CFL, to find out where Vegas thinks these lines are going. Me and Andrew had our custom half-hour talk, and Ben sitting in behind the stage saying, guys, you ever going to go live here? So we're going to go live. Shout out to Conner. Conner, what is happening? Great to see you. How's it going from the ECSI crew? It's going. It's going. Good to be back, but so much to get to. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Andrew McInnis.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Welcome back. How art thou?
We're doing good. I can't believe we're sitting here July 18th. I feel like CFL season just started. I feel like summer just started, but I'm not going to complain about the heat. I like the heat, and I feel like I'm in a good spot right now in the CFL, Jeff. Unfortunately, very similar to the lesson I learned last year with the NHL. I got to learn the same lesson right now in the CFL, is that I got to start treading lightly out the gate because clearly I do my best work around week 4 or 5. So I'll take mental note of that. I plan on doing this for many, many years. So right now I feel like I have a good grip on the league, and I'm looking forward to it. I think that it's been nice to, as you always say, look at the market, how they're reacting or overreacting to things, and learning from that stuff. Because as of right now, last week we saw quite a bit of that, and made some profit off it. And happy to see you cash a ticket with Calgary as well as I did. And I ended up on the first half. You had the game, and we both came out on top.
You know, it was funny. We were talking. We had Winnipeg at 4 o'clock. 18-0 lead, and you know, the guys lining up at the window hoping to, you know, get an early cash out, and then stuck on stupid, up 16 late and end up losing an OT. And then Calgary, hats off to you. First half, and I'm sitting there at halftime like, damn it, Jeff, why did I just play the 2 first halves and sweat free? And then of course, you know, we're now losing with less than a minute to go. And I'm seething, I'm walking back and forth, and there it is, lined up for a 50-yard field goal, which we got the walk-off. I'm going to say this to you. In the NFL, the field goal kicking seems to be, unless you got Tucker, you got the kid from Carlson, from Vegas, from Cincinnati. There's a handful of kickers that are usually automatic. In the CFL, it seems like these kids just line them up, bing, bang, boom, thanks for playing.
You're saying you think it's better in the CFL or worse?
Yeah, no, it's better.
Yeah.
These guys just this guy 50-yarder, he just lined up banging. It was just before the ball even landed. He was already high-fiving, walking around, looking for a hug,
Yeah, I mean, look, I guess I'm a little bit biased. There's a guy that is one of the best kickers in the league. He's actually from my area, and he is the kicker for Saskatchewan, Brett Lowther. And he actually, I had an interview I did with him. He made the argument he thinks that kicking is harder in the CFL than it is in the NFL as well because of the hash marks. So in the CFL, as you've noticed, they're kicking on an angle. They don't get to kick dead on, right? So it's a matter of where the last, the catch, the ball was spotted and things like that. But of course, we have to mention, with I believe that no matter the distance, I feel like it just must be a little bit easier with depth perception. The fact that the field goal post is in front of the end zone and not in the back. I'm not, that could be just me, but I'll tell you what, they have been spot on. They've been really accurate, but don't you love, or maybe you don't, but seeing when a missed field goal happens, when the guy can take it the next way? I'm telling you, if you're a sports bettor, maybe you don't like it as much, but from a fan perspective, it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, I think 2-3 weeks ago, we had a 125-yard kick return. Called back, of course.
Yeah.
So I do enjoy that. I do. I don't enjoy it when it's against us, but I do enjoy it when it's for us.
I always feel bad for those guys. I mean, they're out of breath. They're huffing the oxygen on the sideline, and they realize there were 4 illegal blocks in the back.
Injuries and overs was the topic, I think, this past weekend. Lose another quarterback. Every over came flying in. Our buddy Ian was sticking the chest out a little because, he had all 4 overs, of course. I did miss no Sunday game, by the way, this past week. So thoughts on injuries over the weekend? Thoughts on the overs coming running in?
Really quick, because it would have been a nice 3-0 weekend for me. A pretty good weekend, I should say, at least. I had the first half over in the Friday game, and of course, the game ends up flying over in the full game. That was frustrating. I'm not usually a first half over guy, but I was worried that Toronto would have such a strong run game that they would just control the game in the second half. Well, it was quite the opposite. They ran the ball heavy in the first half and started throwing it in the second half. But injuries are a big thing right now. I've already talked about quarterback play being weaker this year, and then quarterbacks have gone down. But I think that there's a positive to take out of this. The backups have been great. The backups, they haven't missed a beat. They've actually been exciting. There's something to be said about the fact that there's no film on these guys as much. So they're throwing teams off a little bit. Really, everyone talks about football as a game in the trenches. That's a real thing. When I'm looking at the injury reports right now and I'm trying to make my picks, I like the card quite a bit this week, but I'm being careful about, the O-line, the D-line, who is injured, and thinking from that perspective. You want to bet on the team right now that's quarterback's going to be protected. I know that's a pretty blanket statement for quarterbacks or for football in general, but these quarterbacks that are out there right now, the older guys, they can't move as much. Like Trevor Harris is having a great year, and I feel really bad for the guy. I'm not sure he'll be back this year in the CFL or what his future is. Of course, he went down for the Riders, but his backup at least is a lot more mobile. He is not scared to leave the pocket. The only thing is, Jeff, at this point, do these GMs and coaches want their quarterbacks leaving the pocket based on what we've seen every single time one of them does? That to me is the issue. But the totals, the quarterback play, it seemed like it was a major adjustment. And I talked about it at the start about reacting. I think if you just had the discipline to just sit back and watch the first 3 weeks of the CFL, in week 4, 5, and 6, you can react to the overreactions and make money that way. Unfortunately, I was a as you like to say, a day late, dollar short. I was a week late. Last week, I bet quite a few overs, or I was pretty excited on the overs, and then, 2 weeks ago, and then last week is when they came through. But I believe we have a 50/51 this week. Let me see. It's already down to 49. Actually, that's the Toronto game. But some interesting matchups this week, Jeff. And we saw a 16.5 point spread at the opener in favor of a very upset Winnipeg team.
50 right now at our friends at Circa. They're still holding that 49.5 at a couple other spots, 48.5 at FanDuel in Pennsylvania. You're talking about Winnipeg, the first game of the week on Thursday. 15.5, 16.5 for the 45.5. Right now it's Circa 15.5 for the 45.5. An Edmonton team that just can't get out of their way. A Winnipeg team that blew that big game initially. And now this will probably, I'll get egg on my face here. I would assume the Winnipeg would be about -9 first half. I think they'd give you the lean that way. I probably would be leaning Bombers first half here to take out some early aggression on Edmonton.
I agree with you. I mean, a lot of times lately I've been saying with these big point spreads, give them the entirety of the game to get to that cover and to work in their offense. But this is going to be an anger-filled team. Buck Pierce, offensive coordinator, he's a guy that does not show any mercy. And even with that being said, I would not like to try and ask a team to win by 16, 17 points. I would prefer that first half here. And let's just, as you mentioned it, let's just take a second to read off the schedule for the Edmonton Elks, because things can't get any worse for this team. I mean, they've already had such a disastrous year. So they've got short week, Winnipeg. Then you've got Lions next week. Then you're back against Winnipeg again. So in a matter of 3 weeks, you've got Winnipeg, BC, Winnipeg again. Follow that up against and then you got Tiger Cats, Elks, Stampeders. Now, FanDuel in Canada, I'm not sure in America as well, but they had odds last week or 2 weeks ago for when will the first home win take place for Edmonton. If it's going to happen, it's going to be next week against Ottawa. And if it doesn't happen next week, they might not get a home win all season, let alone maybe a win. They're like the Cleveland Browns right now. They're worse than that. I mean, this is a team that's struggling big time, but their biggest thing is that they can't get stops. They can't. Teams are walking all over them. And there's a key player coming back, Kenny Lawler, for the Blue Bombers. He was dealing with some immigration issues. So they already have a pissed off Winnipeg team, a team coming off a big blown lead. You're getting one of the CFL's best receivers. If we thought the Bombers were good, Jeff, they're about to get even better. And sometimes, when a player comes back into a lineup, they work them in, they don't give them as many reps. I can tell you this guy is going to be introduced immediately into the offense. So it really helps our case with the first half, I believe.
That's the Thursday game. On Friday, Toronto travels to Hamilton, opening number 7 with a 49. I got 7.5 at Circa, 8 at Superbook in Colorado, a 50 at Circa, 49.5. Expecting a lot of points here. Toronto, Chad Kelly. I mean, what else do you have to say? MVP in my eyes to start the season here. Thoughts on this game?
My thoughts are that I think that the money will continue to come in on Toronto. However, there are some injury issues that's been holding me off a little bit from firing, which I was a little bit curious why it went from 7.5 to 8 with those injury concerns. But I feel like the dust is kind of settling down at this number now. Here's the deal. You talk about injuries. I didn't even talk about Matthew Schultz. So you and I have been talking about the Hamilton situation. Most people have them power rated like right next to Edmonton, the bottom of the league. And you look at their schedule recently. giving up 29 points to the Elks is despicable. They got up 38 to the Alouettes, 32 to the Argonauts, 42 to the Bombers. And then they had that one win against the Red Blacks, which happily I was on. So when I look at this Hamilton team, their defense gives up points to everybody. And now they're on a third quarterback. The problem is when you have an injury-riddled team at the quarterback position, especially, you want to have pass protection. It's been Hamilton's biggest problem, Jeff, over the past few years. I thought going into this year it would get better. They thought. They actually made some moves for it. It hasn't gotten any better. So that's my biggest problem. Hard to argue the over in this one because of the team's histories, but I'm going to take a page out of your book, actually, and I think I'd look towards the team total under for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Because if this total goes over, it's going to be because of one team and one team only. I'll take under 20.5 team total for Hamilton.
What is the Toronto team total? It's got to be, let me see, 730, 30, 23, no, 27, 28, 21. Actually, that was the initial 28, 21 was the Vegas initial thought process. Did they give you Toronto at 28, 28 and a half?
Yeah, 28.5.
Yeah, I figured. I think they get to 30 as long as Hamilton can keep it a little close. I mean, I've seen Toronto. I've seen enough of Chad Kelly. They're almost like that teabag where they take their foot off the gas. When they get in hot water, they'll crank it up again. I think they can. I think they get into the 30s myself. You wouldn't have to worry about a backdoor like what happened to Winnipeg. So I agree with you with the Hamilton team total under. I also like the Toronto team total over as well.
Yes. And so that's the biggest thing is look at this number go from 50.5 to 49.5. It's really all dependent on what Toronto's able to do. I'll tell you, AJ Ouellette continues to impress. He has been a beast for them in the running game. I think that if Chad Kelly wasn't playing the way he is, there'd be a lot more talked about this running game for Toronto because let's be real here. There's a huge thing going on right now in the NFL. They're talking about why are these running backs so underpaid? Why is the average salary of a kicker more than a running back? Well, people say they're replaceable and they're injury riddled. But when you look in the CFL, when you have a guy like AJ Ouellette that can just plow through defensive lines, it really makes a difference and opens things up for Chad Kelly. So I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to seeing Kelly play in 2 weeks, actually, in person.
Make sure you send lots of pictures, please.
Definitely.
Saturday, Saskatchewan at BC, 45.5 and BC -9, up to 10 at Circle with 45.5. I talked to you backstage. I think it's a great spot here for BC. First half, you probably get around that 5.5, 6 number there. And I also talked about Saskatchewan team total under. Thoughts there?
Well, I was talking to you backstage, obviously, just about the travel spot here for Saskatchewan after losing their starting quarterback. They've played some crazy games. That one against Calgary was, down to the wire. They were never out of it. They traveled to BC, and then next week they're playing in what they call the Touchdown Atlantic game, which is in my neck of the woods. So the travel spot couldn't be worse for them, just the way they're looking around. But to play a team like this at this point, it's one of those things where I think that you get a team off the bye. I'm really high on teams off a bye, especially early in the season. I know people always talk about late season buys, but because of they're rested and get rid of injuries and things. But at this point, when you're week 5, 6, 7, this is when you want your bye, I think, to be able to relax, watch some film, and get back on track the next week. I'm right there with you on it, but it wouldn't shock me to see Saskatchewan hang around. Here's the thing I look at in this one, actually. I talk about there might be a sneaky under with the Toronto game. It's hard for me not to see points in this one. You look at the Rough Riders, the amount of points they're giving up to everybody. We saw 45-27 for Saskatchewan against Winnipeg, 29-26 against Calgary in the first game, 33-31 in the next one. So a lot of times what I've been doing, Jeff, is I whenever I look at games, I've been eliminating the game that somebody played against Edmonton. That doesn't matter. I don't care about it. Edmonton is pointless. But you take away those two games. Those are the only unders that they've played were against Edmonton. And that's because you only need 12, 13 points to beat Edmonton anyway. You're right. But, I think there might be a sneaky over here.
No, I can see it. I just, I wasn't sold on BC early. I did have the Toronto at home outright, but it was all on special teams. It was all on interceptions. Yeah. It was all on punt returns. So I do respect this BC Lions team. And you know what I respect the most about them? It's the pressure that they put on the opposing quarterback. And I think that could be a problem for Saskatchewan coming here on Saturday.
And the young QB, trying to make a name for himself. Will he try and do too much? This is the thing. You and I have talked a lot this year about offensive coordinators. How much will they change the offense for this guy, or will they keep it the same? Because hand up, I said that Trevor Harris wouldn't have a great year, and he didn't have it in him still. He was having a great year, don't you think? I mean,
yeah.
I just read off the numbers. He can't control what Saskatchewan's doing defensively. If your quarterback's putting up 27 points a game for you, that's all he can do. But the defense hasn't been great. I don't know if I think it's fines. I don't know if he can replicate what Trevor Harris was doing. That's my biggest worry. So I think you're right. I mean, if anybody's taking Saskatchewan, they're really hoping that it's the defensive effort from Saskatchewan. But like I said, they haven't really kept it close. So I think the over might be in play here.
I will keep an eye on that, and we will obviously circle back the wagons. Everyone watching and listening, this is what we're going to try to do moving forward here till we get to September. Maybe have an early week preview show of some of these opening numbers, discuss them. Maybe your books have some numbers that we can get in early where you're not playing the inflated line. Perfect example is Calgary. Last Saturday, I actually saw some numbers of 2.5. They opened up as dogs, and they went off in some spots -1. And you needed that field goal at the end. Anyone that got the +1, 1.5, 2 early didn't matter if they made it or not. But for us, we needed them on the money line. So trying to open up some eyes here when possible. The Sunday nightcap game, Ottawa at Calgary, a 44 and a 5. Seeing some money coming in on the Stampeders. 5.5 with a 44.5 right now, Andrew.
This one is interesting because I know a certain group of people that really like Calgary and are ready for them to go on a run, and a certain group that are thinking Ottawa could be a point spread covering machine moving forward. The odds makers tell you that somehow there's been more love towards Calgary than Ottawa. And I'll put it this way. If this was week 1, we're probably getting a bigger line for sure. And you take a look at the scores for the Stampeders. I've read off. I mean, they played the Red Blacks earlier in the season. They beat them 26-15. Now, here's what I'll say. Both teams have gotten better, but I think Calgary's improved a lot more on their offense. They've gotten healthier. Calgary is very similar to the team that they just played 2 times in 3 weeks. Saskatchewan, they're putting up points. There's no doubt in my mind that they're putting up points at this point. They can't defend. We see a low total of 44 open up, bumps up to 44.5. When I look at this number, I think there's going to be some spread drama, but I think Calgary could cover. I don't know if you look at this stuff very often. I'm not someone that, I know you look at the market, but the whole public action and Sharp and all this, I think Ottawa is going to be a public dog this week. I think that they're going to be a popular dog, and those bettors are going to get a reality check when Ottawa goes to Calgary and they lose. Ottawa had that big win against Winnipeg, and as much as it might sound like I'm overreacting to the offense because I like the over, it's more me fading Calgary's defense than loving Ottawa's offense. Does that make some sense? Because I think that Winnipeg blew that game. Like you said, Ottawa, hats off to them. I'll tip my hat to them, but they did not impress me as much as Winnipeg just disappointed me. Did you watch that ending to that game? Because I think the Winnipeg just blew it.
They puked all over themselves. There was some stupid ass catch and blah, 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 blah. And I think you're spot on here is I think people are going to grab the points based on A, last week, and B, Calgary's defense leaking. So in other words, if you're catching 5.5, let's say this gets up to 6, so as long as you're down by 13 or less and have the ball late, you got a chance for the old back door being open. And I think that's what a lot of people, I'll take my shot there saying with the Ottawa grabbing the points with the ball late against this Calgary defense, not making a stop.
Yes. Yeah. And that's really the problem. I'd rather look towards the over than the points, but I think it's going to come down to the wire as far as the point spread's concerned. And I think just to update people, because you and I did do a season win total video, I think I had this game marked. This is an important game for me with my win total for Calgary. I know it's early in the season still, 9.5 after they had a little bit of a tough schedule. I need a win here. This is a layup for them that they should be able to get. Well, not a layup, but this is one on the calendar that should go towards the win total. If they lose this one, down to towards the end of the season, they've got to beat a BC, a Toronto, one of those teams. So I think this really is important for my clients and anybody that followed along with the analysis I had there with Calgary's team total.
Well, I don't see Doug Flutie walking through the door, so we got to make sure that we get the Stampede, and we will have them on Sunday. Trust me, ECSI VIPs. The scroll has been going the whole time, Andrew. Obviously, everyone knows where they can find you at McInnis Picks at Wager Talk at Sports Mayflower. Jump on over to YouTube to Mayflower Sports. Subscribe. It's free. I don't know what you have this week for a promo code. You and I will be back Thursday around 3:00. We'll get the live post time numbers to get everyone all situated. But tell them where they can find you and what you got brewing this week, Andrew.
Yeah, the best deal we have going right now, $99 for the rest of the month, less than $8 a day. That's a crappy coffee at Dunkin' Donuts. So if you want to check that out, we got UFC, MLB, 4-0 since the All-Star break in the MLB. So not a huge sample size, but off to a good start out the break. Updated numbers, I am plus 2.12 units on the MLB season. So not great, not bad. Lots of room to improve. And we got a whole second half of the season to go. And we'll have some plays coming out today in CFL, at least one. And then the rest will probably come out around the time that you and I do our next show. So I appreciate you having me on here, and I look forward to more NFL talk too that we can do as the season approaches. But as for now, let's keep building the bankrolls with CFL.
I'm going to give you a closing layup here. I know you already did your video. I know you've gotten a lot of chatter. You are an NHL expert. You put out the under-over of Conner Bedard goals scored at 32 and a hook. It's kind of a teaser of a number because I think the public will be on the over. I don't know if it's a trap. I mean, is it? I don't know what his total points is for the year. I assume he'd have
65.
65. So they're saying 32. So they're basically telling you they think he's going to have more assists than goals. So for the people that didn't catch your video, give us a little Conner Bedard goals for the season.
So I'll make it clear. Look, I'm cheering for the guy. Canadian #1 overall pick, the next phenomenon. But FanDuel puts numbers at 32.5 here for goals next season. The reason why I made the video yesterday was because that number may change. It was also the talk of the town and the hockey betting community. I'm taking the under for Bedard. Plain and simple. First overall picks. One thing about them is they go to teams that need a pick, right? They don't go to a good team. They go to a bad team. The second best player on that team is Taylor Hall. He had a good run with the Bruins, but after Taylor Hall, there is a huge drop-off of talent. When you're Conner Bedard and you're jumping on this team and you're already one of the top players, Jeff, that means that you're not only, getting all the attention, you're now going to be marked by some of the best defensemen in the NHL every single night. If you ever notice, and people, how people are on Twitter, they love to overreact. A lot of times that 6th, 7th, 8th overall pick ends up scoring the most. If they end up playing for that team. Usually now they go back to college or wherever, but it's because they're actually not playing on the dead last worst team in the league. And people are so quick to judge, but I think that Bedard's going to showcase his playmaking ability, but his finishing might not be there as much. Let's not forget how good Jack Hughes is right now and what happened to him in his first year. Do you know how many times people had to fight for him after he got rocked at center ice? I'm not saying Bedard's going to get lit up like that, but he is not a huge guy. And I saw in person, you saw how excited I was when I watched him. He's not just a goal scorer. He's a playmaker. He'll turn it on if he has to, but I'm really curious to see what kind of player he turns into in the NHL. His competition level is about to change quite a bit than what he's been used to playing against.
I can't wait. We're going to have so many shows leading up to, we got CFL, we got college football, we got NFL, we're going to have hockey. Hats off to Mr. Alcaraz and winning Wimbledon. We didn't jump in till late on Sunday, so we grabbed a little plus money on that. I know you did well in the tennis. Looking forward to the U.S. Open. Where I think this will be the rubber match, Joker versus Carlos. So I can't wait there. But we're trying to cover all the bases, no pun intended. So we look forward to it again. Thursday, 3 o'clock, 3:15. It depends how much we talk behind stage. We'll try to get you guys up to speed. Can't thank you enough. Conner, welcome back. Everyone else watching and listening, thank you. In about 1.5 hours, myself and Riley Magnuson back with the closing bell. And at 6:30, myself and Scott Webb will be back talking some MLB. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest. From Ben Cohen, USC. I think you got a pretty good quarterback over there, by the way. I think you guys are going to do pretty well. Tell Lincoln I said hello, by the way. Andrew McInnis at McInnis Picks. We wish everyone a blessed day and see you soon.